proud. You alone, do the same without the crowd. Raise up for the weak. Raise up for the strong. Raise up for a change. Raise up for the poor. Raise up for your rights. Raise up for the wrongs. Raise up for the living. Raise up for the gone.
Hey, welcome back to LoveBabz, LoveTalk. I'm Babz Rawls-Ivy. Hey, you're listening to us on 103.5 WNHH. We happen to be live streaming on Facebook and X, YouTube, and the New Haven Independent. So, you know where you get all your news from. Tomorrow, my guest, I'm so excited. I've been waiting for this for quite some time. Laura Papano tomorrow. She's making the rounds around the country with this book, School Moms, Parent Activism, Partisan Politics, and the Battle for Public Education. I got to know her because she used to chair the board of the Long Wharf Theater. And I believe she's a Pulitzer Prize winning author, I believe, journalist. I know she's a paper girl. And she's an award-winning journalist and author who has written about K-12 and higher education for over 30 years. And I just like her. And she runs a program here in New Haven, students who are interested in being journalists, like little kids. And I got to speak to them during the COVID time. I got to zoom in on the class and talk to the students about, running a newspaper. So she has had stuff in the New York Times and Hechinger Report, the Boston Globe, the Harvard Education Letter, the Washington Post, USA Today, Slate, the Christian Science Monitor, and she's the author or co-author of 3 previous books and is a former PTO mom, a YMCA coach, and a school volunteer. So this is put up by Beacon Press. So I'm looking forward to there she is. I'm looking forward to having her on tomorrow, 10:15. So tune in. I can't wait to talk about school education and what if there's anything to be done and where we are. I'm out the game. I don't have kids in up and coming education like that. I've got daughters who are one in college and one considering going back. So listen, I'm always bet on higher education. And I know there are people out there like, well, college isn't for everybody. How do you know that until you go? You don't know that until you go. And yes, there are people who absolutely know they're not going to go to college. I mean, that's just what it is. And I'm not refuting that. What I'm saying is we should make it accessible to anyone who wants to go and stop spending a lot of time having these conversations. You can have college and you can have vocational education and you can have training and you can have all these things in existence. It's not an either or. It's all out there, and you put it all out there and people can make choices based on what they need in their lives. I mean, I just wish we could come at things that way rather than, feeling like we have to push kids into one way or the other. And the way that they push them is they always start with college not being necessary. And they only do that in the poorest of neighborhoods. Because I know damn well they're not in Greenwich and Litchfield County and all these in Westport and all these places telling them kids go be a plumber. They're not telling their kids that. They're not. And let me tell you something. Let me tell you why we should be telling Black kids to be lawyers. Because less than 5% of all lawyers in this country, less than 5% are of color. And when I say of color, Black, brown, Asian. That's what I mean. So why aren't we pushing kids into that? If it's only 5% of us in that career track, why aren't we training kids to be lawyers? And it's about the same for doctors. Why aren't we training kids to be doctors and lawyers? Why aren't we doing that? Why? Because we think it's hard? It's not hard. It just requires a commitment of time. I don't know whether or not I'm gonna get into law school. I hope that I do. I believe that I will. I believe it. But I would have appreciated training for the LSAT at a very early age. I mean, if it means so much, do you know what I mean? Like if it means so much, who else could benefit from reasoning games? Who else could benefit from this kind of work? Who else? What other fields could benefit from this? I'm just I just see so many barriers that are just deliberate and intentional. And they were created to be deliberate and intentional about keeping people out of things. You know, the bar only exists because blacks and Jews were getting through law school and they needed a way to stop that run. And so what happens? They create the bar. as a as a barrier, as a deterrent. And people can say whatever they want, but that's how it started. Now we revere the bar as some way to sort of, to say you're a real attorney or some old thing. Oh, you have to pass the bar. But the bar was created to keep people out. Let's own that part. It's just one of these things where they've just taken something that was harmful and tried to turn it around and make it seem like it's necessary. I'm just, I, I, I'm just, I'm just baffled. You know, I'm just baffled by that, and 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 the things that we just allow for that we don't, uh, you know, um, that we just don't allow. So that we allow for and we don't question it. You know, so. And it has its origins in the 14th century, the early 14th century. Attorneys were considered barristers. you know, uh, so, and it's a long test, right? It's a 2-day in Connecticut. The Connecticut bar is a 2-day exam, consists of 2 90-minute multi-state performance tests, questions in the first part of the day, and 6 half-hour multi-state essay exam questions in the afternoon. So it's a lot, and it ain't cheap. It's an $800 test. So you know, you got to be ready for it. Uh, you know, so it's overall it's 12 hours, but then I gotta make you sit for 12 hours. So you're gonna do it over 2 days, and you know, it's tough, and I don't relish it, but listen, that's what you got to those are the hurdles you got to jump to do what you want to do, and just try to do what you could do, you know. Let's see. Um, so uh, that's it. That's all I wanted to tell you. We're not. So anyway, I say that to say that Laura Papano will be my guest tomorrow, and I don't know how I got off on an education tangent. I think because as I prepare for the LSAT, and I have friends in my cohort who are going to take it one more time. Some of them have taken it 3 times. Some of them are going to take it for the 4th time. I've taken it twice. I probably should have taken it a 3rd time. I just don't have it in me to do it. I'm gonna see if I can't get through, I'll have to consider taking it again, um, to see what happens. Like I think that's the thinking. Right. And I know it seems like backwards, like why wouldn't I just go ahead and take it a 3rd time? But it's a very exhausting thing. And I do hard things, don't get me wrong, but I just don't think it's enough of a measure for me how well I would do in law school. I just don't think that's what it is, you know. So, and I don't even know how I'm going to pay for law school. Like, so that's another barrier. Like, how do you pay for this? And because if you don't have a high enough LSAT score, you run the risk of not getting any money, any financial aid, and then you mix in a felon. So really, law school is damn near impossible. So so that's really the crux of it. It's damn near impossible. So I don't listen, I am really just going one 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 step at a time, you know. One step at a time. Because you just can't get caught up in getting ahead of yourself. Because if you do, it'll just wear you out. It'll just you will uh it will wear you out, and it'll be a hard thing to overcome. you know so I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to take it step by step. People are just crazy. uh anyway, I didn't get a chance to see Bone Sticks this weekend. I know they were in town Friday, Saturday. uh so I didn't get a chance to get over to Jazzy's to catch them. One Saturday night I was not gonna play in that rain another minute. I was not. And you know, that's just it. I wasn't gonna play out there in that rain, and then have to find parking. And I don't mind hunting for parking on a nice day. I don't want to do it on a monsoon day. Absolutely don't want to do it. So I didn't get to see them. And they have a CD for me. I'm gonna try to get it. Maybe I'll try to get it this week if I get to harvest on Thursday. So we'll see what happens. If y'all are interested, I am moderating a panel for the Omega Psi Phi um, chapter, Omega Psi Phi fraternity. Uh, this Wednesday. I'm excited to they are doing their women in leadership, a salute to women in leadership, from 6 to 7:30. I'm moderating. Paula Irvin, who is the president of the New Haven Alumni Chapter, um, is on the panel. Dr. Jasmine Hardy is on the panel. Dr. Frida Grant, and Adrian Parkman, attorney, uh, is from Theta Epsilon Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha. And Frida is from, Sigma Gamma Rho. Jasmine Hardy is from Zeta Phi Beta. And Paula is from Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. So I think it's going to be a great conversation, because right now it is a good time to talk about women in leadership, particularly Black women, because we've seen two high-profile cases of women in leadership go very much awry, and painful, to watch the sister ascend to the highest chair at Harvard, only to resign because of foolishness. And then the sister that was who committed suicide from being bullied by a white president at a HBCU. and and I don't laugh because it's funny. I laugh because it's just, you know, they couldn't find a Black person to run that whole school. Like, and from all accounts, he is a bully, but he was cleared of his bullying ways. I wish every person in that school would just walk the hell out and be like, we ain't coming back until he is resigned. We ain't coming back until he's resigned, and just shut it all down. Because they have the power to do it. Those students have the power to do it. You know. just troublesome to me. And I did a whole, I had Dr. Brown on, and a couple of other folks who came from academia to talk about this a couple of weeks ago, and talk about, and that was one of the reasons why they got out of academia, because of the toxicity and and not even overt racism, just all out racist warfare. you know. I'm not going to ask people who are already working in higher education, because I know lots of people who work in higher education, and I'm not going to ask them to come on the show and talk about, what they're experiencing, because higher education right now in this country is operating like the mob. I mean, it really is acting like organized crime. I don't care who hears it. The higher education in this country is acting like organized crime, and and they know it. They know it, you know, and to be and to carry on the way they're carrying on, and putting people's livelihoods in harm's way. Some of these people, this is their dream to teach at the collegiate level. This is their dream to sort of, be the champion of the work that they kind of do, and to be able to uh, teach at that level. Now that's a honorable and amazing accomplishment. But then you get in these institutions of higher learning, and it's dangerous. It's just not safe. And it's not safe. And it's like I don't know what to make of it. I told somebody the other day, I said, I'm so glad I did not choose education as a profession. Not because I think it's dishonorable. I think I mean, I've been an adjunct professor, you know, for a good while in my professional life. And I loved every minute of it, but I like being an adjunct, because if I have to deal with tenure and then I have to go to meetings with people, I wouldn't do well. 'Cause first of all, I don't like meetings. Second of all, I just don't like meetings. I've gotten old to the point where I just don't like meetings. I just don't like meetings like that, you know. Now I don't mind a good lunch meeting. I don't mind that. And I don't mind it when I go to the New Haven Independent meetings. I like those because I like these people. And nobody is like strategizing to harm me. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing when you gotta have a meeting with people who are deliberately plotting your exit. That's a I don't want to sit in a room with people like that. But I sit in the room with the New Haven Independent people, the team. I like them. They ask me questions. I got an opinion, and I enjoy it. And nobody is plotting to do me in. Like, I don't think Paul's trying to push me out of my radio spot. I never feel that way. I'm sure people will be like, we hate her, and why is she on the air for so long? But he has never said it to me, so I just assume it's not happening. But I'm sure it's happening, because I talk freely. He has not reprimanded me about one damn thing I've said. Same thing at the inner city. People take issue with the stuff that we run sometimes, but John just shrugs his shoulders like, well, Babz is the editor. I'm like, yeah, I am. Because people get in this mindset, they think they're telling on you. You know what I mean? Like, they think they could go over your head and just like, and that's a very real thing. People do it all the time. People think that they could go over your head and run and tell that, right? Go over and tell somebody who is controlling your purse strings. So we don't do enough talking about that kind of foolishness. When people think that they can pull your purse strings, that's how they're gonna bring you to heel. That's white supremacy 101. When they can pull your purse strings, they think that's gonna bring you to heel. And for a lot of people it will, because if you got a lot of balls in the air, uh yeah, you might let them pull you a little bit, because you gotta keep your good ass job, because you got a lot going on. And some of these places understand that they understand your situation. And so the way to bring you to heel is to like remind you, you know, that if you leave here, what will you do? Here is the best that you could do. This is the upper echelon of where it's at. And if people believe that, then they surrender their autonomy and their power. and the people who don't believe that bounce. Like, oh no. And there are some people who can stay in that arena and do what they need to do and be unharmed. There's a lot of people like that. Particularly if they bring in some good work. You know what I mean? Like, they got some real value. Like, listen, I don't believe nobody is untouchable, but I do think that some of these places understand optics, and it wouldn't be a good look. And that's why I always tell people when they come into New Haven, and New Haven could be anywhere. When you come to New Haven, you really should ingratiate yourself into the community so that you have somebody that'll have your back. So when these institutions don't like what you're doing and throw you out and you don't see it, and I've seen this time and time and time and time and time and time and time again, countless times, that people get in these positions and they don't think that they should bother with community. And then when the wolves come and start pulling the purse strings, they out, you know, then they're out. But if you've got some community support, it's going to take a minute for them to oust you. And the community has a lot of sway. I've seen it time and time again. There are some people who I think should not have left, who left, you know, who left positions. If they only had bought into surrounding themselves in community, uh, they could have had community fight for them, but they didn't do that. They just, oh, the work is the work and the work will speak for itself. The work will speak for itself, but you have to build a moat around yourself. You have to build a safety support system around yourself. You've got to build goodwill around yourself. And people don't understand. I don't understand why people don't understand that. And I think it's because I went to a HBCU and we've always had a strategy about how to survive in these spaces. But if you don't come from that, I think you are at a serious loss on how to build connections so that you are protected. It's difficult, and I know. I mean, I know what it's like to fall from grace publicly, but even in the falling from grace, there was still people that had me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just was not out here alone. Even though so many people turned their back, so many people slammed doors, so many people wouldn't return calls. I still had people who just held me down so that I didn't fall too deeply into the abyss, you know. Uh, so when new people come, I try to get in front of them as quickly as I can and sort of say, hey, here's a community of folks. Tap into it. You know, I try to do that with people. I really do try to do that with people because I just want I just want to see people succeed. And I'm not saying that I'm the gateway to anything. I'm not. But I do know something about how this town works, who's at what tables. Um, and that's because I pay attention and I'm in these spaces. I'm in a lot of spaces. Sometimes as a spectator, sometimes as a driver, sometimes as a concerned citizen. concerned concerned citizen, sometimes as a concerned citizen. And so, and as much as people whine about it didn't like politics, listen, politics is simply relationships. It is relationship building and a relationship tending. That's all politics is. There's no magic or mystery to it, except that you have to be willing to sort of uh uh spend time getting to know people who are making decisions, you know, and and influencing decisions that make sense for your community. That's what politics is. What does my community need? Okay, who do I need to talk to about this? And who do I have to have in the room? Who do I have to bring? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's those kinds of things that you have to do when you come to a new position, particularly in New Haven, because New Haven is a very social town. Um, Things are done and said in social settings, parties, galas, uh, luncheons, stuff like that. People are introduced and connected in those ways that lead to meetings and additional introductions. That's what it is. But if you just stand on the belief that the work is all there is, the work is enough of an entrance into anything, you're gonna be brokenhearted. And I've seen a lot of people leave this town brokenhearted and bitterly because they felt like, oh, well, I had this good thing and I was like, but it's a good thing to you, but you didn't reach out, you didn't do any groundwork, you didn't get in community, you didn't talk to people, you just thought I build it and they will come. Uh-uh. That's not how that works, particularly in a town that's very, very social like New Haven. Very, very social. Very, very social, you know. So so I have these conversations with people. Sometimes people take what I say to heed, sometimes they don't. And the ones that don't, well, you know who has left this city in the last year or so. I've talked to a good amount of people trying to be like, okay, this is what you need to do. I'm not gonna call anybody out. I'm just like, this is what you need to do. Oh no, it's the work. Okay. All right, it's the work. All right. It's not just the work. The work is just the beginning. The work just says you could do it. They're like, all right, this is a good idea. This city is full of good ideas. New Haven is full. It's overflowingly rich with good ideas. I was thinking about an idea last night that I'm gonna take to somebody. And I'm gonna take to somebody because I don't need it to be mine. I'm at the point in my life, I don't need things to be mine. All I have to do is whisper it. I just want to be in the whispering mood. I think that, listen, this is what I like to see happen. I listen, I don't need it. But I want it to happen. And there are people out there who can make it happen. And I don't got to be not near part of it. I could just whisper. I think this ought to happen. And I'm toying with the idea. Now, the honest truth is, I got a lot going on, as is most people, as is a lot of people. I don't say that to say, oh, don't bother me. I say it to say, I'm always looking to do more things, and there's only 24 hours in the day, 24. And half of those you got to be in the bed. Well, not half for me, but you know. I don't work around the clock, but I'm thinking around the clock. I spend a lot of time thinking around the clock. I hope other people are too. So this is a good talking week. So I got Laura Papano tomorrow, 10:15. I got the Access Health folks coming on tomorrow to talk about the exchange, to talk about the brokerage component. I don't have anybody on Thursday or Friday and Good Friday. So I was thinking about religious people coming on. But in this season of Lent and Ramadan, and today is the Festival of Colors, Holly, Festival of Colors with the folks who are Indian are celebrating. And so I'd go to India just so I could uh, throw up all the color and get painted up. I'd like that very much. I'd do it. I absolutely would do it. So yeah. So I say all that to say, Dora Papano is coming out for education tomorrow. So that was a lot, right? That was a whole lot. And then I'm booking into April, so I've got some folks that I need to get back to, send some dates out for so they can get on, so they can be put on for April. Look, we are already in April. Can you imagine? Just freaks me out that we're about to step into April. My sister's birthday is coming up. And I don't know what she has planned, but and then my birthday is just around the corner. So like, ooh, here we go, here we go. April is coming through. We're getting closer and closer to summer. You know, closer and closer. I'm ready to wear sandals. I tell you, it's gonna be a caftan summer on the porch. This is caftan porching 2024. That's the theme this year. Caftan porching. Pull them all out, lay them all out, see what happens. And yeah, so today I've got the whole day to myself, which I'm excited. I've got some things to do. I don't have any commitments until this evening. I have a few things that I need to do today. And then I'm gonna get into it. I appreciate all the folks that are listening. I appreciate all the new people who tuned in today, who hadn't heard me before and are freaked out that I could talk for 2 hours. Yes, I could talk for 2 hours. You talk for 2 hours too. You just don't clock it the way I clock it. You know, everybody can talk. If you're at work, you're talking for 8 hours. Nobody is completely silent unless you are standing in front of Buckingham Palace and you are changing the guards. You're talking for 8 hours out the day at work. You are talking to people. You are constantly in communication with people. There's no difference. I'm just talking to people. And Justin Farmer was with us up at Story Week, and he was like, why he likes being in the studio is because when he does what I do, he feels like he's just talking to himself. And that's what I find so attractive about the Zoom, because I don't need somebody in front of me the way that he needs an actual person in front of him. I never thought about that for people. I always just thought, well, why wouldn't everybody do it this way? But there are people who really like to be in spaces with people. And in the beginning I did, but I find for me, for this particular show, I can get more guests that I like, and easier, than having people in studio, because I talk to a lot of people, all the time. And, it's easier when they can just, when I could get them easier, than, being downtown, trying to figure out parking and trying to get them in and all this other kind of stuff. So this is easier. So I say that to say, that's the joy in doing it this way. And I feel like, I never think that, I don't need people directly in front of me. This is fine for me. Like in my little cocoon of a studio. If I move this screen, you'd scream. You're like, oh my God, you have all that stuff. But so this is good. This is wonderful. So anyway, I'm out. Thank you, Harry. So Harry, tomorrow morning, I hope you can jump on. We can talk more about Russia. I hope you're feeling well too. And I'll be in touch. I'll be back tomorrow with Laura Papano at 10:15. But I'll be here at 9 o'clock doing this. Good talking to y'all.
This is Harry Droz, and you're listening to WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven.